Hello and
Hello and welcome. We were supposed to do it in time. This is harmony.
Harmony. Okay, on 1, 2, 3,
2,
go.
3.
Hello
and welcome to the Level Cap
Podcast,
Podcast.
where we talk about
man, we're
level
so bad. So
what?
bad.
Oh my gosh, where we tried.
We tried.
We tried to coordinate, and otherwise,
where we try to promote harmony and otherwise.
okay.
Well, welcome everyone. How are you doing today?
That was a disaster of an opening.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
Oh
but it's okay. We're gonna push through because we are on a time schedule and we got to record this episode because the fans are waiting on us.
Because the fans are waiting and because we need to get the content out. And it's also 1 a.m. So I also need to sleep.
All right, cool. Well, let's just roll right into how are you doing, Marco? You need to sleep. Cool. How am I doing? I just woke up. Got to get to work on 7th Cross. Excellent. We're on to Game Club Game of the Week.
Wait,
did
Brad.
we play this
talk
week,
about
Marco?
news. We need to talk about some news first.
Oh yeah, quick news. Right. So the Exceed Pledge Manager is closing at the end of this month. Argent Pledge Manager is already closed. Sorry, you're too late. And Temporal Odyssey will open a Pledge Manager very soon. That is all the news that is fit to print, I think. See you at PAX Unplugged next week. But wait, we're already back because this is from the future past.
Woo!
All right, cool.
All right.
Did I get everything? I think we're good.
Yeah, I think we're good. Also, if you check out our social medias, we'll be posting a lot of more awesome content. So if you're listening to this podcast and don't follow us on Facebook, I suggest you do because you're going to miss out on a lot of cool stuff upcoming.
Yes. We gotta come join us on Facebook. We're giving away a lot of free stuff and contests these days because Marco found out that's the only thing that gets people to look at our Facebook page. So now there's giveaways. Woo!
Woo! Because free stuff is what gets people to do anything in life, right?
I guess so.
Definitely. Okay, Brad, let's move on to our Game Club game for this week. Brad, our Game Club game for this week is...
This week is Danganronpa.
The series.
I've been playing this quite a lot. Yeah, the series as a whole. And this is not like a... Is this going to be a traditional game club? We're not going to talk about how it goes through the ages, are we?
No, this is going to be
various
more
intervals.
I mean, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, because you haven't played them all.
Well, no, I've slightly played them all, but it's more of like, is Danganronpa even different between the 3 games? I mean,
yeah, it's subtle, but they have a lot of like little evolutions between the series that make it a lot. Like, there's a lot of quality of life improvements, especially if you play them like back to back. The first one feels really dated, both in controls and in the way that things are presented. The newest one, V3, is a lot cleaner and. Also, it rolls you into the story a lot better, and also gives you tools you need to get around and to follow what's going on.
I see.
Better.
Okay, so
there's a lot of good things about it. I'm a big fan. I played version 1. I started about 5 weeks ago, maybe. And now I'm on V3.
Okay.
So yeah, I've gone through the first 2 games in that time. And you said you'd played quite a bit too, right? Or a little bit at least.
I played a little bit. So here's the thing. A lot. So I say I play a lot in a little bit because I've played a little bit, but a huge majority, I'd say around like 50% of me quote unquote playing is actually watching my partner play the game. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So
that's about the same thing, really.
Really, it is a visual novel. Essentially, it's a visual novel, right? So for anybody listening who doesn't know, Danganronpa is a puzzle/visual novel type of game, wherein all of these characters are placed into this killing game. Right?
Yeah, this like closed room murder mystery. So there's like 16 kids. You are one of them. You all have some kind of unique talent, and somebody dies, and you have to investigate the murder, and then you all have to go to trial, and you have to prove which one of you actually committed the murder, and so it's kind of like Phoenix Wright. It's also kind of like Werewolf. In that one of the investigators is also the culprit every single time because there's nobody else in this environment, and it's pretty cool. I don't want to spoil anything about it, but the world is pretty neat. The characters are pretty neat, but what I really like about it is I like the closed room mystery format. It's kind of that Murder of the Orient Express format where these are the suspects. There's nothing, and these everything's very controlled. You know the suspects, you know what kind of weapons are available, you know what kind of locations are available, you know what everybody's schedule is. So you have a lot of information to work with. And at the same time, people manage to plot these ridiculously intricate murders.
Yeah.
So it's pretty neat. I really like as a mystery buff, I like that aspect of it.
Definitely. I think the story is presented really well. So in contrast, I'm a huge Phoenix Wright fan. I've played a lot of the Phoenix Wright games, so this kind of scratches the same kind of itch, but differently, because it's actually structured similarly to Phoenix Wright games, right? Because there's the investigation portion where you go around the locations and you try to get evidence and stuff, and then there's the trial where all of you go in there and you try to present the evidence and try to break through arguments. It's all pretty much the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, there is one more phase that Danganronpa adds, which is the daily life phase, and I think that's the real advantage that it has over games like Phoenix Wright.
Right, the persona
phase,
phase,
the daily life phase, because you get to go and talk to all the people and know who they are, but you also get to explore all the locations beforehand. So, like if there's going to be a murder in this place, like say in the gym, there'll usually be some excuse for you to go in there and see all the events and like, why, what the place is like, what things are available there, what it all looks like, and how it's all set up. And then when a murder occurs, you kind of already start to have suspicions about how it might have happened.
Yeah.
So I think, that and who might have had motives and stuff. So it does a nice job of setting up before the crime actually happens. And I think that's missing from a lot of the other investigation games. I mean, but how could you, right? Like, Phoenix Wright's not interested in people until a crime happens. So,
yeah, because he's a lawyer.
Right. But in this case, like, you have to get along with these people because you're basically dorm mates with them.
Housemates.
And so, yeah, their personalities and their motives and their, like, daily lives start to make a big difference in your investigations.
Definitely. So, one big thing about this game. Oh, by the way, quick trivia. I only found this out recently. Apparently, to all you Japanese speakers out there, Danganronpa's name actually is pretty clever, Because Dangan, I think, means like bullet, and then Ronpa means to destroy an argument or to break an argument. So it means to break arguments with bullets, which is literally what you do in the game, because you represent rebuttals by shooting bullets at statements, right?
You shoot down their arguments, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. With literal bullets, like the in-game representation of your arguments are bullets.
Truth bullets.
Truth bullets, right. So yeah, Danganronpa's name means to destroy arguments with bullets. So it's a pretty clever name now that I found out about it. But yeah, one thing about this game that I really like that isn't really in a lot of the Phoenix Wright or other investigation games is that there's an overarching story outside of the murder mystery thing, right? Like, because there's a murder mystery, but there's a reason why these murder mysteries are happening, and there's a reason why you and all of these 16 other anime kids are in this closed room environment.
There's kind of a Saw element to it, where there's this mastermind that has put you all here, because this is not a normal situation that you find yourselves in. And so you're kind of trying to figure out, while you're surviving this game, why are we here and who's doing this to us? And unravel the big mystery.
Yeah, exactly. So it feels a lot like Saw in that sense. Earlier, like we mentioned, why somebody kills someone and then there's a closed room. So the way it works in this killing game is that all of you are essentially in this place for a specific reason, and all of you have the mastermind takes something from you, and he says that the only way to get it back is to kill someone and get away with it, right? So that's everybody's motive.
Pretty much. Yeah, there are different motives throughout the game series, but that's basically, they all boil down to that. Is basically you're trapped, or your memories are stolen, or there's a bunch of money on the table, or whatever, and whoever wins the game gets it.
Yeah,
and
there are two ways to win the game, right? Number one is to kill someone and get away with it, and the second one is to make it through all the way to the very end, finding out the murderer at every step of the way. Because the way it works is that at the end, all of you vote on who the murderer is. If you guys are correct, the murderer gets killed. If you guys are wrong, all of you die and the murderer stays alive, right? And that's supposedly stays alive. And that's the entire motive behind this game, wherein people are killing other people to get this supposed prize that they're supposed to get at the very end.
Yeah. So, oh yeah, by the way, before you go look up Danganronpa, stay away from social media on this game if you plan to play it, because the spoilers are huge and they're everywhere. So
yeah.
don't go look up Danganronpa unless you're not planning to play it, or unless you've already played it.
Yes.
Also, and that goes for like all 3 games, because they all have big spoilers.
Definitely. Especially, like, I'm not even going to say especially which one, but yes, huge spoilers. Also, just in case any of our listeners, there's a trigger warning for this one. This game is, like, it's censored in a lot of the American versions. Like, all the blood is violet, so it doesn't seem that bad, right?
I think isn't it that way in the Japanese too? I thought that was just a stylization choice.
No, it's a censorship thing, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, then, I mean, because Japanese are more censor blood more than Americans, I think.
Oh, okay. Then maybe that's
because this is an older teen / young adult game. Like, this is like 16 plus rated stuff.
Yeah, and it's it really depends on like which one you're playing, but some of them might have like themes of like depression and like suicide stuff. So
I mean, it's a dark murder mystery, like. Yeah. If you thought Persona 3 was a little too dark, you probably don't want to get into this one.
This is way darker than Persona 3 is.
I don't know. Persona 3 is pretty dark too.
That's fair.
But if you thought Persona 3 was like, oh, okay, this is kind of what I expect in a dark game, then you'd probably be okay with Danganronpa.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't think it was much different than that.
Definitely. Like, it's kind of hard to talk about these kinds of games during our game club, because the mechanics are interwoven with the story so much that we can't really talk about awesome moments in the gameplay without spoiling huge parts of the story, right? But
I guess what I'd say is, like, it's neat. There are like lots of logic mini games. You kind of have to, the way that you're not just checking everybody's statements for falsehoods. There's actually like an action game you can play, and in the later games you can like turn people. You can pick up the words out of their argument and then throw them back with your gun. You can take what's the word? You can agree with people. If, like, you can match up your arguments with theirs and support them. And in Game 3, it's not a huge spoiler, but you can actually lie.
Yeah, in Game 3 you can lie.
In the middle of the trials, so you can perjure in the trials, and that's pretty neat. It opens, like, alternate pathways through the storyline.
And
you lie.
I think that's pretty cool, because that's one aspect of 3 that I really like that wasn't in 1 and 2, is like the lying thing. Because it shows this entire path wherein you're like, to reach the truth, I must lie, right? And you usually perjure to coerce or fool people into giving you more information than they usually would. What I really like about this is there's a character in the game in 3, and this isn't a spoiler because he's literally there since the start, right? I forget his name. He's the ultimate mastermind guy. The evil overlord guy.
Kokichi?
Kokichi's really...
is his name?
Yeah, Kokichi's really fun because Kokichi kind of knows more than he's letting on most of the time, because he acts like a huge ditz most of the time, but he actually is... He's supposedly an evil mastermind, right? So he knows a lot of what's going on. And so when you start lying, Kokichi usually knows you are lying.
Yeah, he can spot... He's like the ultimate... I think he's really like the ultimate liar, because he's just telling like these giant fibs all the time. But he's like impossible to read as well, and but anytime you're lying, he like knows immediately. But he doesn't always say anything because he wants to see what happens too.
Yeah, because he doesn't really quote unquote care. What matters to him is that it's an interesting / fun trial, like the biggest chaotic neutral you'll ever see, ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Brad, would you recommend Danganronpa to all of our listeners?
Yes, I would. This is definitely, a lot of series we say like, oh, you don't have to start with the first one. You have to start with the first one in Danganronpa. Like, you literally cannot play 2 without playing 1. You might be able to get away with playing 3. 2 is a little weak in the storyline, and it leans really heavily on 1. I don't know how much 3 leans on 1 because I haven't gotten that far in it yet. Still in the second trial, but
let's just say,
but 1 is definitely worth playing.
I kind of know how 3 ends. Let's just say that you can probably play 3 without playing 1 or 2, but you need to know that 1 or 2 exist.
Okay, yeah, and yeah, definitely don't play 2 without playing 1. But 1 it holds up still just fine. I mean, it's a PS Vita game. So if you approach it like it was made for handheld and say like, oh, well, this is appropriate for a handheld game, it kind of looks like PS1 era, but it's fine.
It's fine.
If that doesn't bother you, then then it's not going to. The game is still the game is the story, and the story is still good. So.
Yeah, definitely a good story.
What about you, Marco? Do you recommend this one?
I definitely recommend it if you're into anime games, right? Like if you're into the anime aesthetic and you can deal with anime tropes. Like I'm a person who likes that kind of stuff.
It's very anime.
Yeah, it's very, very, very anime, right? Like some of the like there's always like that fan service character, the character who's serious or whatever. Like a lot of the game actually plays to those tropes. So if you're not really indoctrinated into that stuff, it might not be the game for you, because the game's kind of like self-aware in that it knows some of its characters fall into like these obvious archetypes, and it kind of plays on that, right? So
I mean, if you thought Death Note was, reasonable, like they're like that, like you'll meet a character like Misa who's like totally nuts, and you'll meet characters like L that are like way too serious for their age, and like it's it's anime.
Yeah, it's anime,
but it works.
It works. I mean, like it's really good. Before we head on, it's really good. Like this anime exaggeration of traits really works well for murder mystery games. Ironically. Because it lets you pick off characters really easily, right? Like, all of the characters are basically caricatures. So it makes it easier for you to understand, like, what's this guy's deal, or, like, what possible motives this person would have.
Yeah. Yes. And with 16 of them in play at the very start, you kind of just have to know, like, okay, this guy's the baseball guy, and this girl's the fashion girl, and this guy's the pop star, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
like, like once you just, that's all you have to do to follow the different people around.
Yeah, definitely. So I recommend it if you're into anime games. Even if you're not, if you're into logic or puzzle games, do give it a try. Don't let the anime art style dissuade you.
If you're not into games, you can just watch the actual anime, which exists.
Which is true. Which is indeed true. You can just watch
the exactly the plot of the game. So
yeah,
there's a few differences, I think, but
it's basically the same.
Exactly.
Basically the same. All right. So that pretty much does it for our Game Club game of this week. If you guys want us to do a specific other game for next week, please tell us. We will try to
get sometimes it does take us a while to get your request in, but we do read the requests, and we are looking at the games that get mentioned.
Yeah.
It's just that we plan this segment like several weeks in advance because it takes a while to play games.
Yeah, because Brad is a busy boy.
And I managed to get through games faster than you do, Marco.
That's true.
Because you're spending all your time playing BattleCon Online.
That's fair. Okay. Look, at least I'm playing BattleCon Online, right? At least I'm not playing Fantasy Strike. Whoops.
Hey, well, Fantasy Strike is pretty good too, but we'll talk about that next week. That's next week's game.
Well, rather, that's a few more episodes down the line. See, listeners, this is how far in advance we plan.
Oh, did I get it wrong?
Yeah. I think that's correct.
Oh, okay.
Okay, anyway. Let's move on to our character of the week. Our character of the week for this week is
Arya.
Ooh, Arya. Sing me a song, Brad.
All-purpose interdimensional scouting drone Arya. So
does Arya mean anything? Is it an acronym?
No, not really. It is. She's built using the same, like the Will-Out robots are all named like musical themes. So like Cadenza is the combat robot. Arya is their explorer robot. Arya was designed by 3 important characters in the story in order to scout through the plains and discover new worlds and help prevent alien invasion in the world of Indians. She was built by Serafina, the one in Fate that uses the holoprojector.
Mm-hmm. She's a Magister,
Runica,
right?
Yeah, Magister Serafina. Runica, the chief armiger of Jeffries, she's the one who has the big robot golem fist. And Caitlin, the leader or the Grand Marshal of the Planestalkers, she's the one with the different portals and the screens in front of her. Oh, so she's really good at like planar technology.
She's the banned one.
Yeah. She's the banned one. So those 3 got together and they're like, let's make a cool super robot. And they did, and that's Arya. But Arya is not actually a fighter. She is an explorer. And so she has this cool teleportation drive. She can teleport around. When she does get into trouble, she gates in weapon drones. So, like, if she needs guns, she could go, like, bam, portal opens, weapon drone pops out, and she can use it to fight with remotely. So she doesn't actually fight from her own platform. Typically, she fights from all of these secondary weapons that she calls in.
Oh, the turrets, the drones, right? So does she technically have hammer space? Is this technically hammer space?
I mean, it's kind of. It's not, but it's not like it's in her pocket, right? Like she has like a chamber that's full of these different drones at the headquarters of the Planestalkers, at Caitlyn's headquarters, and when she needs one, it gets sent to her. So there's a little. It's not as hand wavy as hammer space.
I see. Okay. So it's kind of like Peacock from Skullgirls.
Yeah, it's a bit more like that, I think.
Okay, definitely.
But yeah.
Is she a robot? Like, I always had this impression that Arya was actually a golem, not a robot.
So Arya is like a robot chassis, but she's not an AI. She has a golem core, so she has an actual soul with actual personality, not a simulated personality. There's spoilers, devastation, plot lines, etc. They come across a golem core that has a person's soul trapped inside, and in order to save this person, Runica is like, well, I'm going to build a new golem body for this person, and that's where they kind of end up starting this project, and so they manage to kind of resurrect Arya from what she was before. Although, albeit in a new body with new abilities.
This makes me wonder: is Clive a golem?
Clive is a little bit, yeah. He's a little bit different, but it's kind of the same thing in that he was a person, and his spirit got put into this robot body. So Clive is actually pretty similar to Arya in that sense.
I see. So Arya is a single robot.
Yeah.
It's not a series production.
It is not. They hope to mass produce, but she is still the very first prototype.
I see. Unlike cadenzas, which are mass produced.
Right.
I see.
Yeah.
So what were some big... Yeah?
The cadenza you play in War is still a souped up version. It's not the foot soldier version that you see in armies. It's a special ops version.
Yeah, it's not a jobber bot.
Yeah.
I see.
It's got a little more features.
Yeah, and it's actually controlled by a real person. It's not an AI. So yeah. Speaking of inspirations, what is Arya's inspiration? What's her design inspired by? Like, she has this very futuristic feel, right? So it's like, were you inspired by anything in particular?
Well, I think she's definitely inspired by the doll characters in BlazBlue. So there's probably a bit of Mu-12 in there, especially with the way that she calls in turrets.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. So I think that's probably the most direct inspiration for this character. Although Arya ends up with a bit more variety since she has several different kinds of turrets that she can pull in.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's really interesting to me because I'm starting to see that when you go like, this character was inspired by something from BB or GG. I'm like, okay, let's not wonder why that happened. It's not a surprise.
Yeah.
Definitely not. Okay, so let's move on to gameplay. I'll talk a little bit about the gameplay really quickly. Arya's entire gameplay, as Brad has mentioned earlier, centers around her turrets. She actually has 3 turrets. One decreases the opponent's priority, one makes opponents lose life, and one pulls opponents towards it, if I remember correctly. And she can actually summon these onto the board. I don't think she starts with every single one on the board at the same time. She actually has to port them in with a specific style or base.
Base, her unique base, the reconfigure.
Yeah.
Which lets her, and she also gets to rearrange her platform when she does that.
Yeah. So it allows her to port new droids in. So she kind of escalates, quote unquote, because she starts with 1 and then it becomes 3 over the course of the game. So unlike a lot of marker characters, like if you've played marker characters like Karen and Jaeger or Katsumi and Juto, unlike them, Arya's droids or her turrets don't actually move around a lot. Once you port them in, they kind of get stuck in one place. So that's it really informs the way she plays, because you have to be very careful about where you put them, or else you're going to have to do reconfiguration, which is her unique base, in order to move them around. Because otherwise, they're staying where they are most of the time, right?
Yeah, and Arya's, like, the gameplay is kind of inspired by, like, Totem Shaman from Warcraft. You know, like, you set up your, like, 2 or 3 things, and then you fight there in a little bit, and then, you know, you move over to somewhere else, and you set down 2 or 3 more totems, and then you fight there for a little bit. And that's kind of how our gameplay is. Like, you want to keep this configuration up for as long as you can, and then when it breaks down, you wipe the board, you reset all the position of everything, upgrade a little bit, and then you go on to a new engagement.
Yeah.
And that's sort of how she ends up playing in Devastation.
Definitely. So she definitely plays a lot like that. You know, she has to summon these things, fight in a specific range, and then reconfigure when things go to heck. Right? Effectively, she's actually a speedster, which it's kind of interesting. So she's a very positioning reliant speedster. A lot of Arya's moves actually have decently high priority values, and if they don't have high priority values, they can actually set people's priorities lower. I think Ionic is one of her styles, which sets the opponent's base's priority to 3. So she can usually outspeed everyone to a very consistent degree by using just that style. And then she has another style that gives her like +4 priority if she's standing on the Magnet Droid. See, I don't know all of them.
Yeah, the Magnetron is the one that like lets you pull people around.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's got some cool tech. This is definitely a character that if you haven't played Devastation in a while, it's worth pulling the game out again and giving Arya a shot, because she's a lot of fun.
She's a lot of fun, definitely. She doesn't play like the marker characters like Karen and Yeager and all that stuff, because she really doesn't quote-unquote care that much about her marker positionings. So she kind of feels like she's fighting a lot of the time, you know, rather than worrying about positioning. Because when the positioning's just really bad, she just like wipes the board and fixes it all again, and then starts fighting again. This is like, I know that you said she's not a fighter like in the lore, but like in game, she actually ends up like trading and dueling a lot, right? A lot of her styles actually lend her to a disruptor-esque playstyle. So one apt comparison my friend made is that playing Arya kind of feels like playing the mix between Karen and Yeager and somebody like Schecter. So if you wanted to play somebody like that, maybe Arya's the kind of character for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, there's a lot of control, there's a lot of speed, there's not a lot of power, so you have to be pretty tricky and you have to play safe. She's definitely one of those chip type of characters that wants to hit you without getting hit back.
Mm-hmm. Like her highest damage is like what, 4?
Oh,
that's pitiful.
Yeah, she gets a lot of damage out of her turrets and not out of her own attacks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's pretty much Arya. If you think, Brad, just think, what about Arya's design did you like the most? What part of her are you most proud about?
I mean, I really like the character, like her story design. We didn't really get to know this character until writing the plotline for the Devastation like adventure game, which we hope to bring out after BattleCon Online. But in the process of writing this character, I really kind of fell in love with the personality that she has, and you'll see a little bit of it on her, like when we do the Character of the Week page, and you get to read all of her, like her 10 facts and her quotes and stuff. Arya has got a pretty neat characterization to her.
Really? You know, I think I'd really appreciate it more. Do you think the fans would like her more once they find out, you know, who's this Golem Core Soul, whatever? Do you think that would make them like closer to this character?
I think so. And she's kind of a I guess I'd say like a little bit I don't know what the word. She's kind of anime in that sense. She's like she has to run away when Runica tries to turn her off for upgrades and stuff. Like that sort of stuff. You know, she's just not a little bit not so serious as the other robot characters in the cast.
That's fun, because I always expected that she was like, you know, robot characters tend to be very serious. One thing I really find I really need to ask you this, Brad. How do golem cores work? So, like, a golem core is the soul of a person, but when the core gets placed into the robot, is that robot still just that person? Or, like, does Arya remember who she was before she was a golem?
These are mysterious things that that have to be answered in the storyline. I don't want to give you spoilers yet, but just say that that like ghosts and golems and gods and people are all kind of tied together by common threads in the world of Indians.
Oh, wow. I thought you were going to say in real world. I was like, yes.
No, I don't make any claims about the real world.
Okay, just your fake imagined world that exists in your mind.
Well, some of those were redundant, Marco. You could have just said imagined. You didn't have to say fake.
Okay, that's fair. I'm sorry.
I truly imagined it, so it's a real imagined world. Thanks.
Okay, I guess that's true. Like, if it's in your head, it's not fake, right? Like,
I don't know. Anyway, let's move on and.
So that pretty much does it for character of the week. If you guys want us to do a specific character of the week, again, it doesn't have to be a BattleCon character. It can be from Exceed, from Seventh Cross, from Pixel Tactics. It can be I don't know, Professor Treasure's Secret Sky Castle.
Secret Sky Castle, yeah.
I mean, like,
it could be anyone, really.
Yeah, it could be anyone. Like, whatever, man. We will make
it. Could even be Arya again.
Wait, no, Brad, no. No. Like, we'll run out of
What? You don't like this character?
No, I mean, like, I like this character, but, like, unless we are okay with spoiling
what's
the
the
entire...
problem, then?
Unless we're okay with spoiling the entire visual novel, I don't think there's much else to say.
All right. Anyway, let's move on to our bonus segment for this week, which is...
Brad, we need to ask some questions.
What? Oh my goodness, Marco, always with you and the questions. How many more questions can people have?
A lot. There's a lot more questions here in our Google form. Speaking of which, if you have a question for us and you don't know where to put it, or you want to put it somewhere, you can put it in many places. You can put it in the comment section of this video. You can put it in the comment section of the podcast page on the blog site, or you can access our handy dandy Google Drive form, Google form rather, which will let you ask those questions. So, Brad, are you ready to answer some questions from the people who matter, our fans?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
All right. Will the PNP promos be made available online once more? If the answer is when BattleCon Connection gets reworked, when do we expect that to happen?
Well, we don't... the PNP promos are probably not going to go back online. They're probably going to become BattleCon Online promos. So, like, characters like Evil Hikaru and Anath and Zal Ezra, we like to put them into BattleCon Online, and you redeem them that way and play them there. So these would be characters that are online that don't come in physical form. But we are also expecting Battle Connection to be mostly up and running by our next update, which will be on the 27th, the week after Thanksgiving. So look out for more BattleCon Online then, and also look out for for those characters to be available again soon once we get the game rolling.
Awesome. Here's the next question. Okay, this question I feel was engineered to trap me. How often have you correctly spelled Iria Landradaya Morella without looking it up somewhere?
Well, I always spell it right.
Are you sure? Do you always 100% spell it right? Wow.
Yeah, it's just muscle memory at this point.
Oh, wow, jeez. I thought, you were going to say something along the lines of, since I made her, whatever I spell it as is the correct spelling.
Yeah. IRIALANDRAYAMORELLA. Yeah.
I think you missed the D in the middle. You only said one D.
Quiet you. Pipe down.
All right. As for me, never. I have never spelled it correctly without copying it from the wiki. It's true. I can't spell this character's name. I mean, I can spell
That's
Eerie.
Good. It's working then.
Is this the intention to never be able to spell?
Yeah. I mean, that's for all the Kaons. You're not supposed to really be able to spell their names.
Except Oriana, who actually has a decent name.
Yeah, well, if you put her whole name together, then it's, like Oriana Zinufil Valletta, like that's like a lot. But it's she splits it in three, so it's easier
Oh, she
to
splits
pronounce.
it in three. I was about to ask that. Why is her name different from all the other Kaan names who have really long?
It's not really. It's a giant name the same way. It's just that it's split into three. And that's more of a legacy thing because we didn't name the Kaons that way back at that moment in time. So it's really more of an anachronism than a lore point.
I see. Can you make it a lore point? She likes three.
Sure. She derives her power from having three names instead of one. There you go.
Nice. It's canon. All right. It's not.
Each one of those is short for a much longer name, like Erie's.
So she actually has three. So those are just nicknames to her three ostensibly huge long names.
Sure. All right. That's canon now.
Canon. There we go. At some point, you're going to have to say her full name, Brad, and you're going to regret making this canon. Okay.
No, I'll have to type it, and then I'll regret it.
All right. I see. Okay. And last question. Can you tell us anything more about Imperial spells in Steam? Anything at all, please. We just need the trains.
Okay, yeah, I can tell you about Imperial. Imperial is, the graphic designs are being done for Imperial now. As soon as we have some actual game components, we'll be able to show you. Fabio is doing miniature molds for the trains. We're going to have actual miniature trains, which is super cool, kind of Ticket to Ride style. This is a game where you are building railways in a fantasy world of Indians. You start with your rail company. You know cities around you have different demands, and you build out through the wilderness to connect those demands to the cities. When you reach a demand or when you reach a resource node, you harvest it, and when you harvest it, you get the resource itself. You also get new technology in the form of like new train cars and new building supplies and etc. Things that'll help you expand your network even better. So then you take that technology. You take the good, you ship the good back, deliver it. When you deliver it, you get new, you get other, like, I guess I'd say, what's the word? Like, industrial developments of sorts that will give you passive buffs to your character. Sometimes they're just extra immediate bonuses. Sometimes they're new powers for your company, like in like Argent and like in BattleCon and all of our games, characters, each company has different focus and different ability sets, so playing two different companies will give you very different strategies. That's about all I can say. Runica is playable, Seth is playable. There are a couple obscure characters that we haven't met yet, and even obscure races that we haven't totally met yet that are going to be playable in this. For example, there's a demon train run by one of the Malphase sisters. There's a space train that's run by a Kaon character. There's an underground train that's run by the Underlanders, who haven't totally been introduced in War yet, or in BattleCon yet. So this is the first chance we'll get to meet some of them.
Ooh.
So there's a lot of cool stuff that's going on in this game. I'm pretty excited about it. But we're still doing the graphic design, which is why I haven't showed off much. But we'll be showing it off to you pretty soon because it's going to happen next year, early in the next year.
Actually, on the Discord, Fabio's been showing off some of the molds for the 3D models of the trains. They look pretty cool. Especially the caterpillar ones. They're really cute.
Yeah. The Dryad trains are just these caterpillars with gondolas on the back. These giant caterpillars, and it's pretty neat. They can build a ton of track real fast because they just breed more caterpillars.
Yeah, that's.
And they don't have to. They just walk them across the land.
Yeah, they don't need tracks. They don't actually need tracks. They just need to walk the caterpillars.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So that pretty much does it for our 99 questions segment. If you guys have any questions at all, please feel free to use one of our many avenues to get those questions to Brad and me. If you want to ask us about anything at all, hopefully about games though. Don't ask us about our personal lives, you know? I won't tell you how many toes I have. It's 10.
You just did. You defeated your entire statement.
Oh no,
right.
What have I done? Okay, so let's move on to that last segment that Brad was talking about. Brad, can you take it away?
Yeah, so our last bonus segment this week is called Televised. This is a segment where Marco, where I will pitch a series, game, or other like non-TV media to Marco, and he'll have to come up with a television show for that media, and he'll do the same to me. You can compare our 2 television shows in the comments, and you can decide whose television show you would rather watch. Or you can just rate them both Rotten Tomatoes style with a percentage.
Yes. Or, as usual, you can always just hate both.
So, let's get started. Do you want to go first?
Sure, Brad.
Okay.
Okay. You're really setting yourself up for something that you will absolutely hate, right?
Uh-huh.
Because I could easily just say, hey, Brad, what would be the Dark Souls of television? No, just kidding.
Wow.
Okay, if you had to make a Disc Duelers TV show, what would it be and how would it work?
A Disc Duelers TV show. Okay. Well, this is almost too easy. Because it would be clearly like a shonen anime about disc duelers.
Oh no.
And, when you throw your discs onto the table, like, the spirit of the disc communicates with you, and that's how you become a true master.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
And your resonance with your different discs is how you determine your, or what's it? It's kind of like Pokemon in that sense, or like Digimon or Beyblades. Like there's the the heart of the discs or whatever.
The Bit Beast or whatever.
Yeah. And so the main character, he's a huge fan. He inherits this disc from his brother right as his brother's falling off a cliff, and he vows to his brother's memory that he's going to become the Disc Duelers World Champion. And so he goes on this adventure, and he encounters all kinds of other players who have their own backstories, and who have their own problems, but by defeating them in Disc Duelers, he manages to teach them about good sportsmanship and make all their problems better. And
friendship.
That is friendship.
Friendship.
And that is the story. Yep.
Wow. Look, here's the thing. I poke fun at it. I laugh at it. I would totally watch it, though.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Okay.
I would totally watch it. I was a huge Beyblade fan, and I loved Crush Gear, and I loved Battle Be the Man. So it's like you're speaking to me. You're speaking to me. All right.
Okay. Well, let's see. Which one of our games? I think. Let's see. All right. Well, you got a chance to play Temporal Odyssey, Marco. So what do you think? What do you think a Temporal Odyssey TV show would look like?
Oh man. Okay.
I'll give you a minute to think.
Give me a dun, dun, dun. Okay, wait. Give me a few moments. Oh, this is actually pretty hard. Okay. I imagine, that a Temporal Odyssey TV show would actually work somewhat like the Twilight Zone. Okay? It's like so it's actually told from the point of view of Lovox, the god of time. And he's talking about all of these different time travelers who keep changing stuff in his timelines. And he's reminiscing about, how their decisions tend to impact things in the future. And every episode tends to do this genie-esque Twilight Zone thing wherein the traveler does something expecting the result do something. But then what actually happens is something else, kind of like that Twilight Zone episode wherein he goes back in time to kill Hitler as a baby, but it turns out that the baby they replace Hitler with grows up to be the actual canonical Hitler. Kind of like that. Like the grandfather time event. So it's like, I imagine...
It's kind of like Black Mirror, where things just keep spiraling out of control.
Yeah, definitely. So I think it would be pretty cool like that, wherein from Lovox's time point of view, all of these time travelers are continuously changing the timeline, and every episode's going to be this vignette or talk about a specific traveler trying to change a specific thing, and then after they try to change it with their time travel powers, Lovox goes to explain that, things don't always end up the way you expect them to. So maybe, by changing the fate of this one person, turns out that person grows up to be some dictator who ends up killing a ton of people. Or maybe you go back in time to save your loved one. You go back to the future and you find out that your loved one breaks up with you eventually and gets married to somebody else.
Gets married to Gary Oak.
Oh no,
who's better at disc duelers than you?
Smell you later, kid. My grandpa's a professor.
I kind of want to know now what tragic pasts all of the travelers of Temporal Odyssey have. I wonder if Chris has already written that for everyone.
Right, because every single one of the travelers is an edgelord. So all of them have tragic past.
So they all have some kind of dark, gritty past, right?
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of which, that reminds me, the travelers in Temporal Odyssey kind of remind me of Planeswalkers in Magic.
They are a little bit that aesthetic. I mean, people that have some kind of power that other people don't have, and the power is to go to different places. Yeah, I could see that being very similar to
and they're all edgelords. And they're all edgelords.
Johnny's not really an edgelord, right?
Okay, that's fair. But the typical one like Chandra and like Jace.
Yeah. It's Jace and Chandra all the time. Yep.
Jace and Chandra all the way, dude.
Nobody cares about the rest of you guys.
Yeah,
it's just Jace and Chandra.
Who are these? Who's Nissa? What's this person?
All right. Anyway, I think that about wraps it up for our televised segment. So if you want to watch Disc Duelers World Tour, or if you want to watch the Temporal Zone, get in touch and let us know in the comments.
That's so good. If Temporal Zone wins, Brad deserves the win just for that name.
I don't know about all that. It's pretty good pitch. Anyway, we will see you guys next week, and thanks so much for listening in again. I hope you have a great time, play some games, and as usual, wish you happy gaming.
Oh, so don't forget your Force Special Action. Thank you, World of Indians. Thank you, and good night.